Welcome to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means. The other two are just along for the ride. James, say hi.
Hey.
Hey. And we are joined by Nate Harris. Sup, dude?
What's up, guys? How's it going? Nice to finally sit down and talk and banter a little bit.
Yeah, we're all about the banter. Yeah, this has been
Let's
a long
do it.
time coming. We started talking with your bullpen talk.
Yeah.
How hard is it to do a podcast?
If you have, I think the first thing that's really hard for people to do, and what was really hard for me, was to just start it, just do it. I had these big plans of what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it right off the bat. But you really the hardest part is just getting it started. So once you get that first guest and you start going right away, it kind of flows. You find out the little tips and tricks along the way that I'm sure you guys have figured out between the audio and the equipment and just getting people lined up on different schedules. But it's really fun. It's becoming a really good passion of mine.
Yeah, we still don't know what we're doing.
Not a clue.
Yeah,
not a clue. We were just struggling with headphones and microphones before this, and finally set it up. But it's not as easy as people think, though, either. There was a learning curve.
Not.
I am very thankful with our one sponsor, Anchor, but it's just the platform they do. And they do make it super easy, because going through the weeds, all right, how do I put this on that feed and connect it here and there? It's absolutely insane.
No, I use Anchor too for my podcasting, and editing, learning how to edit, it sucks. That is the worst part of it. I wish it would just come out clean right when you hit record and right when you hit finish.
Yes, editing, it is more time consuming than you imagine. I saw this tweet. It was how to make passive income in your spare time. Here's 20 things. And all of them were super unrealistic. And one of them was doing a podcast. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not passive.
Exactly. I didn't get the memo on that one.
No, it is not an income thing. And it is more for definitely fun. So
exactly.
Your bullpen talk, it is fantastic. A lot of Rockies players. We have, I guess, 1 degree separation. Taylor Snyder.
Yeah.
He was really our second guy that we talked to, and absolutely loved him. And he's really kind of helped us. We drop his name, we drop his name a little bit and use that to connect with players. So I love that guy. He's fantastic. He's doing okay in Albuquerque right now. Sure. So yeah. And then I'm going to take it
pretty much. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good.
I was going to say pretty much all my guys I've had on are the guys that I'm closest with right now, the guys who I've gotten to know over my time with the Rockies, the 5 years I had with them. And so some really good guys. Snide's a really good guy. He's got an awesome story. Lucas Gilbreth has another awesome story. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun getting the guys who I've gotten to know and make good relationships with, get their stories out there so people can hear them. Yeah.
We are kind of doing the same thing, but in different ways. We are coming more from a fan, and you're coming more from a friend teammate. So
for sure.
I found that very interesting listening to the Snyder conversation, because that was he had the same stories, but he gave you a little bit more just because he had the friendship and stuff there, and it's just cool. So bullpen talk, you can find it on all the platforms. I'll plug it for you. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Thank you.
And I'm going to pull one out of your playbook. So tell us where you're from. How old are you? Where you grew up? What was your upbringing through high school like?
Yeah, that's how I start all mine, because I'm horrible with intros. So, but I'm from San Antonio. That's where I'm at right now. I grew up here in San Antonio, Texas. Went to Churchill High School. I'm 27 years old. I started off my college baseball career at Hill Junior College. I was there for 3 years. I redshirted my first year, and then I transferred to Louisiana Tech. And then I got drafted in the 21st round by the Rocks in 2017. And I just recently retired this past year in 2022.
What was that playing at Hill College like? Playing at that JUCO?
Pretty much every stereotype that you think of junior college baseball, everything you get is spot on. It's gritty. There's no rules. It's long, grueling days. There's at the beginning of the fall, it's 60, 70 guys competing for 25 roster spots. So, it's a lot of competition. The days are super, super long. The school is fairly easy to balance, but I mean, it's, it is honestly what it's made out to be, what everybody hears about junior college. So
So how'd you land on Louisiana Tech? What was that process like?
yeah, so I was my whole career and my story is kind of about slow starts and kind of blossoming a little late. So I had a really I was young coming into college. I went into college at 17. I started school way back when I was super like a year younger than most kids start. So I was young, I was underdeveloped, I didn't throw hard. They decided to redshirt me. And I kind of grew into my own a little bit. And by that second year came around, my coaches moved me into the rotation. I had a really good fall. And Louisiana Tech saw me at Dallas Baptist at a little tournament they were putting on, and they made me a really good offer that I couldn't turn down and risk losing. So I committed pretty early to them. I got recruited by Rick McCarty, and it was it was honestly just a perfect fit right from the get go.
What was it that kind of clicked for you? Was it were you just throwing harder? Were you striking guys out more? I mean, was it just you're getting more weak contact, all of the above?
Um, I've never been a guy who throws hard. I was always an upper 80s. I touched 92 once, but I would say
Nice.
I sat. Yeah, I know, not very, not nothing impressive, but I always had the slider in my back pocket. I've always really been able to spin it, and so and also I've always been better in a starter's role. So my first year, my redshirt freshman year, they had me coming out of the pen, and once I showed that I could start, that's where Louisiana Tech saw my value. And so I kind of got more reps. I got to settle into my own. I got in a little groove that way. And so I kind of just got to pitch and do my thing. So that's what they liked about it.
With your time at Louisiana Tech, weren't you mostly a reliever?
So it's kind of reset from there. I went back to the relief role, but I was more of a long reliever. So my first year in college, I was the closer my first year, and so that was kind of a new role for me. I was competing for a starting job. It was looking like I could be the Tuesday guy or the Sunday guy at Louisiana Tech my first year, and some older guys beat me out, and so they kind of moved me to the long relief role. And so that was a little more comfortable for me, so I can work through a lineup once or twice. So I'd say the long relief role was the best fit away from the rotation. And then once I moved into my fifth year, my senior year, I ended up getting shifted into the starters role kind of once conference came around. And again, I kind of had to talk my coaches into moving me into the rotation because I knew I was better as a starter. I begged and I begged them to have me start, but they wanted to have me a long reliever, and I kind of forced their hand, and they finally moved me in. That's when things took off.
Yeah, because looking at your 2017 Louisiana Tech stats, you had 9 games started. So we're in 22 games, 9 games started, and 8 saves.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
exactly. So it was like, what is that 8th save? You're like, I'm over this, coach. Put me on the bump to start, and just kept pestering, or what?
So my fifth year, we got a new coach, Lane Burrows. He's still there right now. And first day on campus, I walked into his office, and I had a really good relationship from the previous year with our pitching coach, Christian Ostrander. So I told Coach Oz, I said, hey, I want to come in and talk to you and Coach Burrows. And I told him straight up, I was like, I want to start. I want to be the Friday night guy. And they both kind of chuckled, and they're like, that can't happen. Like, you have to be the long relief guy. Like, that's your role. They said no. And I kept hammering it home all fall. I just kept saying, I need to start. I need to start. I need to start. And so they push back. But I told them, I was like, I'm going to do whatever you need me to do. Just know that I'm better as a starter. And so I ended up relieving. I was doing the long relief. I was doing 3 innings. I was bridging to our closer early in the year. Then I got shifted into long inning saves, kind of like 3 inning saves. And then I got shifted into just the closer, and I was closing multiple games during the week. And then it finally got to a point where we were really struggling with our Friday and Saturday guy. And I was closing on Friday night and starting on Sunday. And so it got to a point to where they were like, okay, we're just going to let you settle in as a starter. Senior year was a whirlwind. I literally had every role you can imagine. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
So,
how do you approach that mentally? I mean,
yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
It's really great, having a defined role and being able to focus on that all year. But guys struggle just with that, and then you bouncing in between roles during the season. That's a lot on the mental, ain't it?
Yes. Yeah. Looking back on it now, yeah. I think I was just kind of unaware of I knew what I was working for and I just wanted to bring value to the team. Um, I just wanted to be on the mound as much as possible, honestly. And so I think with having that many roles and being able to cover that many innings, like I was achieving what I was wanting to do, and that was just be on the mound as much as I possibly could.
Yeah. So you were doing that as a 21, 22-year-old. Would you have seen yourself doing that pestering as 17, 18-year-old? Like, yo, coach, I'm here.
No, because when I was 17 and 18 and I was in at Hill, I was struggling. Like I didn't I really had to work just to get to that back end role in JUCO. And so like my first year at JUCO was a dogfight. It was a complete dogfight. And it was a grind of a fall and getting redshirted. Like I knew it was the best thing for me. I knew I needed a lot more work. And so looking, if you would have told me I would have done what I did my senior year 5 years later, I probably wouldn't have believed you.
It is pretty crazy. Like the grind, redshirt to JUCO, and then to, 2.31 ERA in your time at Louisiana Tech your senior year. Is that normal? Like that's not a normal progression, is it?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say that too many redshirt freshmen ended up going on to have that kind of. I'd say it's pretty uncommon, but I mean, like I grinded it out. I worked my tail off, and honestly, I'm gonna give a lot of credit to my pitching coach that was there at the time, Coach Oz. He was the first guy to really point out how good my slider was. And with him, he was calling pitches. He called a great game for me. We were 60 to 70% slider when I was even as a starter. I mean, I was hammering the slider. So I think I was trying to just be your traditional pitcher of, 70% fastballs, throw the slider off of it, hopefully working a changeup. I had a kind of an okay curveball, but he made me specifically a sinker slider guy, and we hammered the slider. So a lot of it was just getting with him and him calling my game.
That takes a lot, and having trust in a coach means a lot. Like I coached James for a season. I don't know if he trusted me enough to do that kind of stuff. I refused to call games. Like it was Legion ball. I didn't know what I was doing. I had my little brother catching. I was like, "You call the game. You know better than I do." But having that connection with that coach does help going through.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Definitely gets you through those long days. And speaking of JUCO days, I've been going to a few CC games up here, a few D2, D3 schools up here, playing ball in Michigan, which is just cold as can get out. It's terrible. Baseball weather, it's terrible. But these guys are grinding 3-4 hour games, and then they play one directly after it. And
every game is a double. I
don't know how they do it.
Every game's a doubleheader. We played Wednesday doubleheaders and Saturday doubleheaders. Sometimes we would get a single game in on Monday. So we were getting 5, sometimes 6 games a week.
Yeah, it's the record. It's one school is like 30 and 20 on the season. Yeah, and they haven't played more than 5-10 home games. It seems like that grind at that JUCO level. You really have to love that game that you're doing to do that. So that's pretty cool. So you got drafted. Was that kind of I expected it? Was the 21st round what you were expecting? Walk us through that.
So going into my senior year, going into the 5th year, I was fully prepared for that to be my last year of baseball. When I went in and talked to my coaches, I was also talking to set up for me to come back and do the GA job. I was ready to hop into coaching. I had never talked to a scout. I never got a questionnaire. I never even got like a, hey, what's up? Like great game. Like I never had that. So we got through about halfway through season. Okay. So we're a few weeks into conference and we were playing Rice down in Houston. And this is my second start. So the previous week I had started for the first time. They finally moved me in the rotation and I went complete game CG. And I threw a shutout. And so we went into the next week and I was back in the rotation. And on Friday night, I got a save. Sunday I came back and I threw another complete game shutout. And after that game, I got my first text from the Yankee scout. And that was the first time I ever talked to a scout. And this is with 2 months left the season of my 5th year. And that's when things were kind of speeding up. I was getting some attention for the numbers I was putting up, and so throughout that last half of the year, I started getting questionnaires and I started talking to some scouts and stuff. But I was real, like, you could ask my buddies this. I kept telling myself, like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I was honestly just I didn't want to be let down. I didn't want to be, I was super excited to finally talk to a scout. All my buddies have been doing it all throughout their 4 years. And I always felt kind of left out with that. So I kept telling myself, like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And when the moment finally happened, like, it was a rush. I mean, it was a big moment. Like, I never expected it. I always wanted it, but I never expected it just because it never attracted any attention.
Yeah. Those complete games, shutties will kind of get some attention, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there goes a tent. Sorry about that.
You're good.
So how relieved were you that the Yankees didn't pursue you a little bit more? Because Yankees suck.
I actually grew up in a Red Sox household, so Dad might have disowned me if I would have taken that. But no, like, honestly, when it happened, it was like, for that to be the first team, that was like overwhelming in itself,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So then, how did the Rocks come around?
I never talked to the Rocks throughout the year. I actually didn't talk to Zach Zulli, the guy who drafted me, until after my last start of the year. He kind of told me he was watching in the shadows. He was keeping up, he wanted just to watch and talk to me finally right before the draft. And we ended up having a great relationship. So he was watching. I didn't know it. I never got a questionnaire from the Rocks, but yeah, I'm glad he did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You're mentioning a questionnaire. That's new to me. What is on a questionnaire?
Man, it is a packet. It is a big packet. It's pretty much any question you can think of from a medical standpoint, any sort of injury you had back in when you were 4 or 5, anything, any kind of surgery, any kind of sickness. It's almost kind of like when you go to a doctor's office and you got to fill out all the paperwork for the first time. They'll also give you some questions on like a bunch of rankings, like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? And like strongly, not strongly, neutral, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
They'll kind of figure out your character. Every team has their own set of questions. It kind of varies, but it's a lot. Like they want to get to know you through that packet.
Yeah, especially if you have a bunch of teams contacting you. I mean, that's some serious homework in and of itself.
Yeah, because I mean, they're looking at so many guys. They don't have time to sit down with every guy, talk on the phone with every single guy. I mean, they got to put their reports in. They got to figure out what guys they like. And so, I mean, it's good to like get guys in the system that way through that. So
then the transition when you were drafted, was it just you just got a phone call and you're like, hey, we took you in the 21st. You need to
do this and that.
Yeah, what was the step
funny
after?
Story is we were tracking the draft, and I was a day 3 guy. And so I woke up early because the draft starts, and I think it starts like 8 or 9 o'clock because they got to cover 20 some rounds. It's different now. This is when it was 40 a round draft. And so I got up early and I'm waiting. I'm just waiting by my phone all day, and my dad calls me and he goes, hey, congrats. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, you just got picked up. And so there's like, you've seen Draft Tracker online. I got picked before the Rocks called me, and I was like, oh, Dad, I got to go. I'm getting a phone call. Like, so my dad kind of broke the news to me beforehand. I ended up getting the call, and I wish I could tell you what happened. I completely blacked out. Mom was sitting there in front of me crying. Dad was at work. He came home. So I was overwhelmed, to say the least. I was very overwhelmed.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
You just got drafted and you had no idea. I feel like there would be a better system. Like, if they can send out a million questionnaires, why can't they let you know that you are drafted before your name shows up on a TV screen?
Yeah. I know once you get to those later rounds, the timing changes. So you got to put the pick in quick. And I'm sure right when it happened, it just so happened that my dad was looking at the tracker at the right time. He probably just hit it right at the right moment. So
it was meant to be that way.
So then what happened, right after that then? So now you're drafted. What's it like them welcome you into the organization? I mean, what's the communication like? Anything?
Yeah. So Jesse Sender with the Colorado Rockies covers all that stuff with guys in the draft. He gives you all the info that you need. He tells you everything you need to do. There's a lot of paperwork in the beginning, but I got on the phone with him and he's like, "You're going to Boise, Idaho." So he was like, "You got to be in Boise in 5 days. Here's your plane ticket. This is what you need to bring. You need to get your passport because that league, we go to Vancouver." So I quickly had to run down, grab my passport. I didn't have a passport at that time. I had to get it shipped pretty fast. I pretty much packed my whole life up, got on a plane and went to go play baseball in the Northwest where I never had been before.
And then you never really unpacked for the next 4 years or.
Yeah. You really, minor league baseball is about living life in a suitcase. So.
Yeah. On your pod, you talk a little bit about those bus trips.
Man.
So you got experience before the whole minor league readjustment, right?
Yeah.
So last year when you were playing in Hartford, was it that much nicer than like the travel schedule and stuff?
It was a breeze. I got to go everywhere in my own car, the car that I'm in right now. I got to drive. So they give the older guys some luxuries once they kind of trust you a little bit. No, you're not going to be just an 18-year-old kid driving 100 miles an hour to the game, like stuff like that. So just the train, like Boise is it's rookie ball. There's no roster limit. You got 40 to 45 guys on that bus. And so you're doubled up. You got somebody sitting next to you. You got guys on the floor. You have 8-hour bus rides because that league goes anywhere from Western Idaho up to Vancouver in Canada. And so the closest trip, there's one trip that's 4 hours. Everything is at least 8 hours that league. Everything in the Easter League for Hartford is like 4 or 5 hours. You might have one where you got to go down to Richmond and it's 7 hours. But I mean, like when we've been doing it that long, like 7 hours is nothing. But yeah, I was able to drive my car and I was able to ride in the luxury of my own space, so.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was even an option. I just assumed you all got on the bus. All right, schedule time. Game's over. We're all hopping on the bus. We're going through the night. Yeah. We'll get into our next destination in the morning and then see you at practice at whatever noon or whatever.
The majority of guys ride the bus because guys don't have cars. Like some guys do, and like you have to sign a waiver and stuff like that. So, but I mean, the majority that is how it goes most of the time. Most of the time, you're riding the bus.
That's new. That's cool.
Yeah.
So we're talking about it. What was like the living situations at each of these spots? So rookie ball, I'm assuming you had a host family. Was that?
Yeah, I had an awesome.
Threw up.
No, so I had an awesome host family in Boise. Miss Tracy and her 2 sons, like they were awesome. Mm-hmm. She had 2 sons who played baseball, so they were always around. They had an awesome dog. I lived with LJ Hatch. He's in AAA with the Rocks. He's been my like spring training roommate for every year of spring training. So then we went to Asheville and we had they had one host family. I lived in an apartment with Nick Kennedy, Brett Boswell, Sean Bouchard. That we had an awesome apartment. Asheville is an awesome town. I'm sure you've heard us talk about that. I'm sure you heard us talk about that in our podcast. Like that's our favorite city we've lived in. And then I had another host family, Lancaster. They offered host families. Another great family, the Kinneys. They host like 3 guys a year. So they are all about taking care of guys. That's what their passion is. And they do an awesome job. And then we went to Hartford where there are no host families again. And we had to get an apartment. And actually it was called Sage Allen. It was 2 blocks down from the field. And there were a bunch of townhomes. And they were going to tear these townhomes down like right at the beginning of season. And we showed up because I'm sure you've heard, like they put out lists at the end of spring training, like, okay, you have like 5 days to find a place to live. And so everybody's scrambling. And so we called this complex. We say, hey, we heard that guys have lived here in the past. Like, do you have any spaces? They're like, yeah, we were literally about to tear it down in a month, but we'll push back construction if you guys are coming in. And so
Wow.
we moved 23 guys into 5 townhomes. And so it was literally 5 townhomes. The whole team was there basically. And we pretty much had the place to itself. Like they didn't have anybody down with us. So we had our own space. It was awesome.
That's wild.
Dude, it was kind of college dorm roomy. It wasn't like Asheville, and it wasn't super nice, but the fact that we could all be there together and kind of walk home in a group, show up to the field every day, like we did everything within walking distance, and so it was really good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and that definitely builds up camaraderie and friendships. And
Oh yeah,
you are together literally all the time. But I
Yeah.
miss those days in college, living with my roommates
yeah,
and just literally just coming home and hanging out, and then all right, let's repeat tomorrow. I
Dude,
mean, it's got to be cool,
being-
like doing it as a professional ball player and doing with your guys too. That'd be fun.
being retired, like that's looking back on it, that is what I miss so much right now. I miss competing, I miss playing, but I miss my buddies, like I was with them for 5-6 months out of the year, and like literally every day, 5-6 months out of the year, every single day. So it's like you just get so close, and especially like our draft class staying together through 17 for the most part. Like I was with Nick Kennedy, Sean Bouchard, Matt McLaughlin, just to name a few guys. I mean, there's a handful of others. And I'm like, we came up every year together, and so like you get really close with certain people.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. So let's talk a little bit about your career. So you just mentioned Boise, Nashville, Lancaster, Hartford. A lot of ups and downs, it looks like.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, walk us through, does that change per season? Is it the feel? Is it the competition? Is it just you trying to figure it out as you're on the fly?
Every year you learn a little bit more and more about yourself. Asheville was like, it was a slow start, but I really came into my own. I really learned how to attack professional hitters. Lancaster is a whole different model because I'm sure you've heard stories about that. It's 20 miles an hour, 20 mile an hour winds out on average every single day.
Yeah.
You learn how to pitch to your surroundings. You get to Hartford and guys are a lot more polished. For me, there was a big learning curve going to Hartford. I mean, the velocity really exposed me, being 88, 89, sometimes 87, with the slider. Guys at that level are really, really, really good. And so if I miss with my velocity, it gets hit. And I'm sure we've talked about this. That's a big piece why I had to convert to being a knuckleballer. Like I had to find a way to get guys out. I had to find a way to be different. So yeah, every year you just learn more and more about yourself and how you attack hitters. You learn more about your stuff. Technology has grown every year. We've come through pro ball, so there's a lot more analytics, and you kind of figure out like, why is this pitch getting hit? Why am I having success with this pitch? So yeah, it's a lot of learning year to year.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the knuckleball transition there. What was that like? And kind of walk us through what that was like for you.
Yeah. So Hartford, like I said, Hartford was a struggle. I really struggled for the first 2 months to get outs. I wasn't getting in good counts. I was pitching from behind. I was getting hit around. And so we're out on the field at Dunkin' Donuts in Hartford one day. And I want to say it's middle of June. And so we're getting ready for a game. We're doing all of our pregame stuff, and we need to do team defense as we do every single day. And we all get up in the infield, and I got there a little sooner. Guys were still warming up, and I'm sitting there with Max George, and I've always had a knuckleball in my back pocket. I threw it when I was like 13, 14 years old, and I've always messed around with it. So me and him were playing catch, and Krista Norfield, the AA manager who had 10 years in the show, saw it. We looked it up. He has like 50 ABs against R.A. Dickey. And he saw me throwing on and joking. He's like, hey, pop up on the mound, because we were just waiting for everybody to get up. And so I threw a couple off the mound. Max is he's struggling to catch them. They're pretty good. And he kind of looks at me, he nods his head and just walks off. And I'm like, that was weird. Okay. Didn't really think anything of it. So then my pitching coach comes up to me the following day, and this is Frank Gonzalez, and he's like, "Hey, what the heck?" I'm like, "What? Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "How come I got to find out through our manager that you have a knuckleball?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like joking. He was just messing with me, but he was like, "No, seriously though, like, I want to see this knuckleball. I heard it's good." And in my mind, I'm like, "This is like, what are we doing? Like, why are we even talking about this?" And so he sets it up. We end up. This is right when we were going to Reading, Pennsylvania, and he was like, "Hey, you're getting off the mountain today. You're throwing a knuckleball." I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I'm no part of me is thinking we're getting converted to a knuckleballer. I'm thinking like this is just for fun. Like, oh, Nate's struggling. Let's loosen him up a little bit, you know. And I get off the mound and I'm loose and I'm throwing the knuckleball and it was nasty. It was really good. I turn around, like the whole team's behind me watching. And Dino's standing there too and he's watching. And I see him immediately get on the phone. Like, what is going on? The next day comes around like, "Hey, you need to get off the mound, throw me 10, 15 more. We need to record it and send it to the front office." And I'm like, "This is insane. Like, what is happening?" And so I throw some good ones. Then it just so happened to line up that our pitching coordinator had scheduled a time to come in. He's like, "Hey, I want to see the knuckleball. Let's see it." And so I throw it for him. And he's like, "Okay, let's get a live BP." And it just kept snowballing, speeding up. And I'm throwing it in a live BP when we get back to Hartford. And I'm facing a Willie Abreu, was the first guy I ever throw it to. The first one I threw, swing and a miss, it was pretty good. And so it finally got to a point after that live BP, they're like, "Okay, let's throw it in a game." And I look up and I'm like, it's been 2 weeks and I'm like, what is happening? I'm in AA. I've never thrown a knuckleball and you want me to throw a knuckleball in AA. Like, I'm cool for it, but how did we get here? You know? So it just so like things just really lined up for this to happen. And so someone went down. I ended up getting a spot start on the 4th of July. And so they're like, "Okay, this is the day. Let's throw the knuckleball." But they set some guidelines. They're like, only throwing an advantage account, only throw it 01, 02, you know, where we can't get hurt, no one on base. And so I ended up throwing it. I threw the knuckleball 15 times in that game for 4 innings, and I struck out 8. Like, I hadn't been getting strikeout numbers like that all year. And so I remember walking in after that 4th inning of my spot start, and they're like, "Okay, we got to sell out and do this." And our coordinator pulled me aside. He was like, "Look, like," he goes, "I care about you." He said, "I love you. What we're doing right now is not going to work." He's like, "I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to be honest with you. Your stuff right now just simply is not going to work." And I always kind of knew that. And so I was like, "Okay, like if we're going to do this, I'm 27. Let's sell out. Let's go for it." And so I went through the rest of the year learning how to be a converted knuckleballer. And it was a test. It was a big test. There were a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I really struggled with it, but I'm glad I did it. I did something to set myself apart and make me different, you know?
Yeah.
That was the long-winded answer.
No, that was perfect. I mean, that is truly a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah. And I met some awesome people there. I got to talk to Charlie Huff, who's like 5th all time in wins. I got a good relationship with him. I got to talk to Ari Dickey. I got to talk to Stephen Wright. Tom Candiotti came out to spring training and I got to throw a bullpen with him one day. Like, I got to do some things that a lot of people haven't been able to do. And like, it was a blast getting to know those guys and just doing something that's like such a small amount of people have done in the big leagues. You know, like there have only been, I can't give you the exact number, but it's less than 100 knuckleballers in the big leagues, you know? And so the fact that I even got a shot at doing it and competing in AA with a knuckleball and getting a start like that, it was fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
It's really funny, you know, going from junior college, grinding it to, you know, potentially, you know, a AA knuckleballer. That's obviously a transition.
Yeah, what a trip.
Never want to bet anything on.
It was, yeah, man. Looking back on my career, it's crazy. And like you said, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Looking like when you say it like that, thinking back to JUCO and thinking where I finished up, it's crazy to think. I never really thought about it that way. It's crazy.
Yeah, and your story is a lot more successful than James's knuckleball story because he tried to do that when I tried to coach him. I was like, no, dude, we ain't doing that.
Yeah, man, it's hard. You got to time. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's just my experience was I just played high school ball. I was never near good enough to even flirt with JUCO ball, but
Yeah,
tried to throw a knuckleball in a conference game just to give us a. I mean, we're dead last in the conference or in the district, and like we're just trying to mess around and do something to
yeah,
squeak out any type of thing. Yeah, I tried to throw a knuckleball, didn't
exactly.
work out very well.
And I think, you look at my numbers and it looks like I really struggled. I really struggled. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm trying to figure this out. I literally have no idea where this pitch is going. I have no idea. It could have no spin and it can go right down the middle and not move at all. Or it could have a little spin and it could be dancing. Like I have no feel for it yet. Like I haven't thrown this thing seriously since I was like 13 years old. And so because I was a low velocity guy beforehand, I had to prioritize command over everything. And so it was hard on me mentally to throw a pitch that I didn't know where it was going. But there was like I talked to my pitching coach and like there's the development side, like you got to throw it to gain feel for it. And so it was hard for me to stick with it and throw it when it's like 2-0 with a guy on first. But those are the moments where they want me to throw it. And so it was hard going from like 7 walks in Asheville to 30, 40, how many ever walks I had in Hartford. I was walking the house with the knuckleball. So, but yeah, that was a really hard transition for me, like pride wise.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. How
Yeah.
mad
You're told your entire life that walking somebody
is bad.
is
Exactly.
the biggest no that you can have.
Exactly.
And you're asking me to do this, right? How mad was Max George that he had to be your knuckleball catcher?
Max got to a point where before he's got to get reps too of learning me and learn how it's going to move. He was turning sideways at certain points so he can make his body as thin as possible. Not in a game. That's in the bullpen. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
fun. I like that. So I mean, then spring training come and let's bring it down a little bit, I guess. What was that moment like at that phone call at spring training?
So it was in person. So what happens is what we're talking about is me getting released by the Rocks and me deciding not to pursue any other teams and no, you're good, and not pursuing anything else, and kind of decided to hang it up. So I had a rough camp. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I really tried being perfect, and I stressed myself out a lot. So I was struggling in camp, and it ends up getting to the end of camp where cuts are coming. Like cuts have to happen. There's a ton of minor leaguers, but there's I want to say it's like 180 minor leaguers in your organization or something like that. And so we were over that threshold, and some guys kind of got to get released. And so I was walking in. We're in the locker room, and if a coach ever comes into the locker room and says, "Hey, we need to come talk to the office," you kind of know what's going on. And so I remember hearing that. I'm like, okay, like here we go. And so I end up sitting down with Chris Forbes, our farm director, and he said some really awesome things about me. Like I've had great relationships with everybody in the Rocks, and he just shot me straight. He was like, look, like it's not really progressing. You're 27. We're getting to that point, and we got to let you go. And I fully respected it. I was so glad that they told me then, instead of riding it out throughout the year, and grinding it out that way. And so it was bittersweet. It was hard. There were tears involved. I knew it was like, I knew I wasn't going to pursue it anymore. I was mentally exhausted. And so, but he said some awesome things about my character and just the relationship that we've created. Every single one of our coordinators walked up and told me personally, if I ever needed anything, if they know that I want to pursue a job in collegiate coaching, they all know that about me. So they said, if I ever needed a reference, that they would speak for me. So, it was a bittersweet goodbye. It was good. And so right afterwards, I took a few days to think about it, to really think over my decision, but I was like, it's time to kind of move on. I'm getting married in October. So the timing was honestly right.
Yeah, well, congrats on the marriage coming up.
Appreciate it.
Aaron, I'll let you take over. The dogs bark.
Right on time. Dog's name story. Just right. Being loud about it. But I mean, you're very open about your the mental side of the game. Like in your bullpen talks, I really appreciated your conversation with Snyder about like you guys grinding it out that one night in the locker room, and that there is that mental, there's that mental toll with it. And if it just keeps happening and you kind of hit, everybody has a breaking point. Like I'm almost there with my professional career, my day job. Like I'm almost to that point where, all right, it's just stressing. It's stressing. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm good at it. It's fun, but there's all these other factors that, you know, grind and kind of take that toll. And at a certain point, you found yours, like, all right, so we're just kind of moving on.
Yeah, everybody's different, man. Some guys are really good about like suppressing and like just holding it in and staying even keeled. Like, and those are the guys you see succeed and get to the big leagues. The guys that can not ride the highs too high and the lows too low, they stay right in the middle. Those are the guys you see get to the show. And so I'll be honest with you, I'm a guy that wears my emotions on my sleeve. I ride the highs high and I ride the lows low. You know, any one of my buddies can tell you that about me, and that's just how I am. And it's something I worked for in my career. At the moment, I give pitching lessons, and I work a lot with younger kids, and it's something that I really try to get them to understand so that they don't have to go through the same thing. And so, I hit my breaking point with the knuckleball. It was completely different than anything I did with my sinker slider. You know, that was years and years and years of gaining feel and trust. And so like, to completely change something up like that, it was exhausting. But like I said, I would never change how the last year went. And so I had a blast doing it.
Yeah. Like if you are going to go out, right, you at least had that experience, that cool, unique experience. Like you said, nobody else is really going through that with it. So, I mean, so you mentioned it a little bit, but was it difficult for you to hang up the cleats, so to speak? Like you kind of said it, you knew it, but
honestly, not really. Like this is what happened when they gave me the news, when they called me in the office and they told me, I felt a sense of relief, and I was like, okay, the fact that I'm feeling relieved means it's time. Like that right there told me, like, okay, like I feel relieved. Like, it's time. It's time to hang it up. So.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because I mean, just briefly having that conversation, I could tell that was a lot of weight off your shoulders. I mean, not having to deal with that anymore was somewhat of a relief, even though you knew it was, you know, you had to transition into something else. So now you're giving pitching lessons, which is awesome. What are you doing? Anything else? I mean, what's going to happen from here?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, my goal is to get into collegiate coaching. And so I have a really good relationship with my coaches at Louisiana Tech. And I've always talked about coming back. And so that's where I'm in San Antonio. My fiance and I, after we get married, we're moving back to Louisiana, back to the Reston area where Louisiana Tech is. And I thought about coaching there. I thought about maybe getting involved with the athletic department. Stuff like that. It's still pretty early. I'm still trying, like, life sped up on me pretty fast. So I'm still trying to figure out what the route is. My goal really is to be a collegiate pitching coach. Like that's my passion. I'm sure you guys know this, but like pretty much every baseball player in the off season, when we need to work, like does lessons, just because no one's going to hire anybody for 4 or 5 months before they leave again for another 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. So, so in the meantime, because I know I'm only going to be home through the summer, I've hopped back into lessons. I'm trying to stay as busy as possible, working with kids, and we're getting summer programs ready. And then once that happens, like I said, I'm hoping to transition to the collegiate level. So.
Why collegiate? Why not professional?
So for me, there's nothing that gets more other than like the big leagues, but like there's something about college that takes competition to a whole new level. You know, in pro ball, everyone's trying to make it to the big leagues. You know, it is like, it has to be a selfish game to an extent. Like we're all focused on like progressing ourselves and developing and stuff like that. Like winning is awesome, but like, I mean, we're really focused on developing ourselves to become a big league pitcher or a big league hitter, you know? And so college is just, it's gritty. It's like a bunch of young guys, just they got one goal to get to the College World Series. And so it's just, it's different. I don't know how to explain. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? It's just
I
different.
do get it. Yeah. I mean, with the lockout, I dabbled into the collegiate ball life a little bit, just watching it. I really dove into the Grand Rapids college ball this year. Trying to make as many games as I could and following along and trying to, just keep in the know. And the game is just different. They're battles, they're long battles. There's emotions on the sleeves, emotions everywhere.
It's emotional. Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a good product. It's fun to watch. And then being involved with it sounds incredible. We talked to Zach Kokoska, draft pick from last year with Fresno, and he was mentioning just his time at Kansas State and going head to head with TCU in like a 4-game series and getting a walk off, but how the bad blood between the two teams really drove that, that athleticism and just brings a different side of you out. And it's when you're playing with passion, as kind of what you alluded to earlier, right? Like when you're playing with passion as a career, it's a little bit different. And so it's fun. Like I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Yeah. I mean, like my junior year at Louisiana Tech, we had cleared house. We brought in new coaches. We brought in 24 junior college transfers. We were a completely new team. The previous year, Tech was horrible. We were picked to finish 11th out of 12th in Conference USA. And we all kind of pulled together because of how bad people expected us to be. And we ended up making the NCAA tournament, making it to the regional championship game against Mississippi State. Like, I mean, it's stories like that, like really pulling together for one thing, which is winning. And it's a different, you hit it right on the head. It's a different game.
To me, it seems like the college game, every game matters from a team perspective, where in pro ball or minor league, every game matters from an individual perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, there's something too, like college games, 50 games. I mean, you have 140 games in pro ball. And so like, you're right. I mean, it's definitely different that way.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's going to be fun watching you do that grind now, kind of put that out there and see what comes of that. So that's pretty cool. You just mentioned you played Mississippi State in the regionals. So did you ever meet Hunter Stovall?
I love Stovall. That is a, like, man, he is a fun ball player to watch. Yeah,
he is scrappy, and he's one of our guys wants to watch, and he's a fun conversation. But he was on that Mississippi State team. Did you, like?
Yeah, I faced him.
That's crazy.
I ended up. So we played my junior year in the regional. I didn't pitch in that game. I threw the previous game the day before. But then we went back to Mississippi State my senior year, and I got the save against Mississippi State. I'm pretty sure he was one of the guys I faced. I'm almost positive.
Struck him out.
I don't think so. I think he had a ground ball. I can't remember.
Knowing Stovall, he probably grounded out. He probably made contact. He was that great. There's no way it was fun to face him.
Yeah. So I was in the AA group again for Hartford, and Stovall was there, and that was the first time I really got to experience him playing. And so that guy hits everything hard, and he makes every play in the field, every single play. And so, like, that dude needs a lot more attention, a lot more love, because he is one of the, like, fun guy to watch.
Yeah, he's one of our guys we're trying to put out there a little bit more often, because we are big Stovey fans. He's just a good dude, genuine dude.
I got
love Stovey.
Sorry to interrupt. I got Mike, our intern, on the box score from that Mississippi State game. Nate Harris came in for Harrison in the bottom of the ninth. Hunter Stovall grounded out to the catcher. It looks like he tried to bunt for a hit, maybe.
Oh, you're right. Someone did. Yeah, I do remember that.
You struck out the next guy swinging, and then grounded out to shortstop.
That's a good appearance.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry about the beeping from the car.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I think we could be here all night. I think we should definitely make this happen again. We always end with our fun questions, so let's end it with these. I did some digging, did some Google searching on you, and I have to ask, were you in the Little League World Series? There's this weird article. I don't know.
I was part of a really good Little League team. We made it to state. We lost to a team that got second in the Little League World Series. That might be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought I had to ask that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move past that. Your girlfriend, fiance is a dentist. My wife is a dentist. So we have that in common.
You get the grind,
I need a dentist.
Literally.
So
Full circle. How much useless information about the mouth have you learned in your time with your fiance girlfriend?
I've made it a point, like Anna played softball. She gets the game pretty well. So I've always tried to give her like extra little nuances. She always gets me. She's like, I played softball. I know what you're talking about. And so I try to make it to a point to where I remember some things dental wise. I know there's 5 classes of cavities. I could wrap off I could shoot off all the lingo, but I don't know.
How do the numbers go? How do the numbers of teeth go in the mouth?
Oh, numbers of teeth. So they go, so it's 1 to 32. You start at the top right, work to the top left.
Yep.
Then it goes down to the bottom left, work into the bottom right.
That's the one I always try to remember. And then that's always the good one. And then periodontal disease. My wife hates it. Like I think the thing that Anna's hit just beat into my head is that if I don't floss, I'm gonna get gingivitis and lose all my teeth. That's what she tries to hammer home to me. So yes. Do you floss? Because I am not a good husband with flossing.
I'll have my spurts. I'll floss for like 3 nights in a row, then I'll forget for like 2 weeks. So yeah. I mean, I definitely floss more than I did before Anna. So
same here.
Yeah.
So that was fun. What was your go-to meal on pitch start days for you when you were starting?
Dude, I got the pregame jitters a little bit. I wouldn't get super hungry. You're kind of limited to what is in the clubhouse, and we always had. So I guess when I knew I was starting would be when I started in Hartford, and so because I relieved all the other times. So we had a really good clubby. His name was Ari. He always had really, really good food, but I never wanted to eat a lot of it. I just wasn't hungry. I was so locked in and just ready to kind of get out there and jittery. Like I just wasn't super hungry. So I didn't eat a whole lot on those start days.
Okay. So let's go with, what was your road trip snack when you were traveling?
Being with Nick Kennedy all the time, you're kind of forced to just eat Chipotle over and over and over again. And he'll throw a fit if he doesn't get his Chipotle. So I'm really hoping he's listening to this because, I chop him up for this all the time. Yeah, being with him all the time for the last 4 or 5 years, Chipotle.
You still kind of enjoy it?
No, I can't eat Chipotle anymore. I'm numb to it. So
just it's just what you had in the car.
it's what we had to. Yeah. And that's kind of what every pro ball guy kind of goes with. It's what's easy. It's in most towns. So
yeah, we've been getting.
One thing we did do in Hartford is we really got into coffee. We got a little bit of a coffee club between me, Nick Kennedy, David Hill, Brian Gonzalez, and Reagan Todd. We had a little coffee club. So every time we went to, we shot in the group text of saying, hey, found this coffee shop. Let's go hit it up. And that was a big staple for us in Hartford.
That's fun. The coffee shops are always unique too. So that's a fun little experience to do.
We'd always try to get little stickers or something showing where we've been. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Be selfish when you answer this. What's your favorite baseball moment, baseball memory? From Little League to all the way to the end.
I got 2. I got a college one and a Pro Bowl one. So my collegiate one was in the regional tournament. We were playing Cal State Fullerton. So they do the rankings of like what's the toughest regional, and we got paired up in Mississippi State's regional, and that was ranked the toughest one. Mississippi State was 4th in the nation. Cal State Fullerton they led the nation in ERA. The 4 seed SEMO, Southeastern Missouri, led the nation in home runs. So it was tough. That opening game we played Cal State Fullerton. and there were lightning delays. It was raining, and we got pushed back super, super late. And I remember Philip Deal, who pitched with the Rocks and is now with the Cincinnati Reds, started the opening game for us. He went to Louisiana Tech. He had a great start. He ended up getting taken out in the 6th, and I got put in with runners at 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. And like I said, with all the delays, I didn't get into this game till like midnight. We played till like 1:30. And runners on 2nd and 3rd. It was a 1-0 game, and I got 2 punch outs to get us out of the inning, and I lost my mind. I freaked out, did the whole fist pumping thing. That was a really good moment for me. And in pro ball, I think so. This is kind of sad that hitting me in the box is the highlight of my favorite moment. I got a hit in AA in Hartford, and so that was an absolute rush.
Yeah, you had that clip on your quote unquote goodbye post on your Instagram. It was all the way at the end. Just straight up stance. When was the last time you picked up the bat before that, man?
I was trying to. I know I didn't do it well, but there's inspiration between how I was standing. I was trying to stand like I was trying to emulate Taylor Snyder's batting stance.
It was very similar.
Yeah, super upright, big leg kick.
Yeah. And opposite field single. It works. Do you have the ball?
I slipped out of the. No, I wish I did. I slipped out of the box, so you can't see it on the film. I slipped out of the box because the right fielder was playing so shallow on me. I thought he was going to throw me out at first. So I hit it. I felt good. I was like, oh crap, I'm going to get thrown out. And so kind of fell out of the box a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Nate, thank you.
Other than.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No.
I was gonna say that 4th of July start. Now that I think about, like, pitching wise, if we're being serious, like that 4th of July start, my first knuckleball, that was another really good moment. So
yeah, I mean, you could probably keep going down the list. I feel like if you have to be able to remember everything if you're a ball player, like the things you guys can
really
remember.
Yeah,
it's the details with everything that you all remember. It's incredible, like how you guys are able to pull that out.
I will say I'm not as good. A guy like Lucas Gilbreth, he could tell you a start that he had in college. He could tell you a count, an inning, and like he could tell you down to a T of what happened. Like there's some crazy, crazy memory and knowledge for some of the guys with the Rocks. So yeah,
it's fun. Nate, thank you for hanging out, man.
Of
Sorry
course,
we took up your evening a lot longer than we expected, but it was fun for us.
No, I podcasts are a passion of mine, so I have fun anytime you guys want to have me on. And like I said, you're gonna have to shut me up. So anytime you want to have me on, so
yeah, we'll have to do this again, and just talk
and I gotta have you
all
on
everything. Yeah, switch it up, man. Switch it up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we're down. Let's keep in touch. Cool. Keep doing cool things, and look forward to watching you grind on this coaching gig thing.
For sure.
Thanks, Nate. Thank you for watching and listening. Please check out our link tree for more content.